All right. Hello everyone. We're gonna get started in just a second. A few minutes late, but that's okay, right? Go ahead and say hello if you're here watching today. I'd love to hear from you guys. Today I have kind of a little mini class for you that I hope you'll enjoy. And today is not a sponsored post. I'm just sharing things that I love from Vintaj today and something that I think you guys will be excited about. So let's get started. Oh, not that one. All right. Hello. Welcome, you guys. I'm Heather Powers from Humblebeads. There you go. And I'm a bead maker, jewelry designer, author, illustrator, and your all-around muse. Hey Susan, hello, welcome. So, have you guys seen the new colorful soul paints and wooden pieces from Vintaj? This is a new series they came out with this summer, and it's taken over their, in lieu of their Vintaj patina paints they used to have. So these are the next thing in their line that they couldn't manufacture the patina paints anymore. So Vintaj worked with another paint company to reproduce their favorite colors, and it's just a great new paint that's on the market that I think you guys will really enjoy, and I'm going to share with you some of my favorite tips and tricks for painting with it. And so I hope you really enjoy today. Hi Anita and Debbie and Susan, nice to see you guys. Yes, Debbie, this is a new apron. I've been wanting to dress nicer in the studio because I've been buying a lot of clothes and have nowhere to wear it except in the studio. So I've been on this apron kick and buying inexpensive aprons to paint in, kind of like your painting smock when you were in kindergarten. So that's the vibe I have going on over here. Hi Candy and Patty. Susan's from Virginia. Welcome, you guys. Hi Phyllis. So it's December 1st. I cannot believe that. I am such a Christmas nut, and happy Hanukkah to whoever is celebrating Hanukkah. And then just it's a happy time for me. I really love this time of year. I love being festive and decorating Christmas trees and the whole thing. I'm 100% here for it. So on that line, I'm going to show you some Christmassy renditions of these wooden pieces that I painted. I think I'm just going to jump in. I see enough of you here that we're just going to get started. Hi Vicki, nice to have you here. Hi Diana, hello. Hey, if you guys could do me a favor, go ahead and share this video because I think it's really going to be an interesting one that a lot of people are going to enjoy. You're going to basically get a little mini crash course in painting with me. So if you haven't seen them, these are the plates that Vintaj is selling, and they have several different artists that are designing them, and you can see each one is themed with several different pieces in the collection that can all work together for a whole little series of jewelry, or you can use them separately. I kind of like to paint them in related color schemes, like one whole sheet, so that I can mix and match them in jewelry making. This one is definitely one of my favorites, and this one has one that popped out. Sometimes the little pieces just pop right out in transport, but that's okay, they come in bags. So, and then I like this one too with some of the geometric pieces. Now I think I'll paint one that I've already painted, so I won't have to refigure things out. That sounds good to me. So I'm going to start with this one right here. And I'm going to do a little show and tell with things that I've made already so that you guys can see all the different ways you can use these products. So here's one that I painted in a Christmassy theme. So red and white, and then green, and some little Christmas disc beads that I had made last year. And so I want to show you, this is the exact same component, but painted in a different color scheme. And so here I've gone with the light purples and greens, and it totally changes the look of it. And so there's so much versatility. And this, what I've done though, is when I do one of the panels, I'll paint them all the same color scheme so that I can use them together. I know I already said that, but I'll say it again. And so here's another pair of earrings that I did from the same sheet. And the background I painted white, but it has just like this whitewash wood effect, which is really pretty. And then here is a floral piece that I did, kind of poinsettia-ish, but not quite. And so I did this as a knotted bracelet and added some little charms, the snowflakes. Here I have the little pine cone from the Vintaj subscription box last month, and I have some new little tiny mushrooms that I'll be adding to the website soon, and of course the Humblebeads, and this is a knotted piece. So I love this one, really pretty. And this was from another set that I had, but I grabbed it because I thought it looked really Christmassy too. And so I did grab this from another set and painted it in the same color combinations. And so we have just the red flower with the greens, and then added check glass and some humble beads, along with some vintage chain at the back. Now, this red one that I have here, I also did it in green and blue. So again, depending on whatever your mood is, whatever you want to have the jewelry match to, you can really change the look of them just based on the colors that you're going to use. Okay, here's just some components that I painted but didn't do anything with. So I'm going to go over how to do this distressed look with you guys, and then how to paint the little florals, how to do some sanding to get different finishes on them, and how to use the Renaissance wax to change your designs into a more matte, earthy, natural finish. And so I really love these little components that pop out too. There's on here, like you'll see when I pop this out, this little piece actually pops out and is a separate piece from the center. So they give you a lot of components in these pieces. And then I have a little leafy piece. Who doesn't love leaves? And so I match that with another disc bead. Humblebeads disc beads, of course, are my favorites. Match them with everything. And here are some of the fairy leaves, or butterfly leaves, I guess. They look like fairies to me. And so, again, matched with the Humblebeads. And here I did this piece this week where I have the butterfly, and I matched it with some Vintage butterfly charms and some Humblebeads and check glass. And just made it a nice long necklace. And then my last little pair of earrings to show you are in the same color scheme as those first floral ones. So you can see I did this one, and these are the same design, just done using different colors. Okay, so I'm going to clear all of this off my... Oh, did I show this one? The yellow? If I can stop throwing it around. Here we go. And then I did a few yellow and white pieces because I thought those would look pretty with some of my yellow birds later on. And of course some fancy little discs. Alright, now let's get to the fun part. And of course this is how I always clean off my desk. Just shove everything to the side and the back. Am I alone? I don't think so. Okay, I'm going to work on a paper plate just to protect my work surface. And I have paints, and the paints, guys, you're going to have to mix them up. So you're going to have to shake them really, really aggressively. Sometimes the colors may separate, and that's totally fine. That's what this paint does. And so you just have to shake it until it's all one color again. and you want to hear that little little ball inside there rolling around. That helps it shake up, kind of like nail polish. All right, hi, Rosalinda and Gerald. Nice to have you guys here. And so this is the Colorful Soul paint. You can use it on any surface like wood, metal, polymer clay, paper, whatever you want to paint with, you can use the Colorful Soul paint. And the other little trick thing we're going to use, well, not a trick, but secret weapon, is a silicone brush. And so instead of using a bristle brush, we're going to use a silicone brush, and it's going to help get really nicely, it's going to help the paint go on really nicely. It kind of puddles on instead of being brushed in. And I do have a little paintbrush for some techniques too. So I have a small paintbrush, and most of my work is going to be done with the silicone paintbrush. And you can get this on Amazon, or I'm pretty sure craft stores too, but I haven't checked. I just ordered it from Amazon. All right, you're also going to need some sandpaper, and this is I think it's 320. It's a little scratchy, so 300, 320, something like that. You want something that has a little bit of a tooth to it. You could also use a nail file kind of thing, or an emery board. When you're going to poke these guys out, you're going to start from the front always and push to the back. And you're just going to work them until they pop out. Ooh, this one has a sticker on the back, so you want to take the sticker off. And you just want to do this nice and slow so that you know, you're being a little careful with the piece. Oh, I can do that one first. And some pop out easier than others. And also, if you have any trouble and any of them happen to break, which is rare, but if it does, email the Vintaj team, because they want to know if anything like that happens so that they can adjust the patterns so that they don't have any breakage in the components. Okay, and I'm going to do 2 of these. So you can see you have the outer portion and then the little charm from the middle. And you guys can drill these with a little pin vise drill if you want more holes than what are shown here. So the first thing you're going to do once these are popped out is you're just going to take your sandpaper, and you guys can see right there, there's some little nubbins. So you're just going to sand off until that's flat. It doesn't take much. And you'll just do that on all of your pieces that you're going to paint. And I think since I'm only going to paint a few pieces, I'll just do a few here. And I really love the edges on here, how it's been burnt, and so they all have that dark stained wood look on the outside. It's really pretty. And then also, because these are burnt into the wood, they're actually, what I want to say, like little, what's the word I'm looking for? Ridges. That's what, so you can hear it's not smooth across there. There's little ridges wherever there's a little line. There's actually a line in the wood, and that's going to help you paint a little easier. So I'm gonna set these pieces to the side because I'm not gonna paint all of them. And I'm going to use just a little corner of my, what I want to say, my little work surface here as my template. And I'm going to start with by being a little fancy and mixing colors for you guys. The first thing to make note of, and actually maybe you want to write this down so you don't forget, is it's always better to take a light color and add a drop of the dark color to it. If you took this dark color and tried to add white to make it lighter, you would be using and wasting a ton of paint. So you always want to take your light color first and then add a little bit of your dark color. So keep that in mind. Now you can mix these paints just like you would with any other paints. Ooh, another handy little thing to have is a head pin or a thin piece of wire, because they do get clogged and you don't want to squeeze them. If they're a little clogged, you just poke them with the head pin and then they'll come right out nice and easy. These also have a little bit longer of a drying time than the former Vintaj patina paints, so you don't have to work quite as quickly. You can kind of take your time and breathe a little. Now when you're mixing colors, you want to stick to colors that are next to each other on the color wheel so that you'll have brighter colors, unless your goal is to mix colors and make dull colors, and then you'll use colors across each other on the color wheel. So blue and purple are next to each other on the color wheel, so I know that's going to make a pretty color. If I added yellow to this mix, I'm going to get brown or gray. So you want to stay away from colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, which would be these two buddies. These two will make brown. So I know I want to have my lilac color here a little bit more on the purple side, so I'm going to add a tiny bit of blue to it. And I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to add the purple to the white color and then add a little bit of the blue. I'm going to start out with a little bit because again, it's always easier to darken it than it is to lighten it, and I like that color, so I'm going to go in here, make sure I have enough puddled up on my brush, and I'm just going to touch the surface here, and it's going to lay in between the sections that have been lasered. You want to make sure you have enough paint on the brush that it just kind of puddles on here. And also this brush, can you guys see how it has, here we go, a fine tip at it? So using this brush that has that chiseled tip helps you get into these smaller pieces without having to have a lot of dexterity. Like, you just have to be able to touch the brush on there, and with that fine little point it's going to stay within the lines. And these components, just from listening to Jess during the Adornments retreat, they actually designed them to be kind of like the little Zen coloring books that we all love to play with, the adult coloring books. And so it has that same kind of relaxing, fun feel to it. So just kind of meditative. Again, stick with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and you'll have a little bit more success. And also using less colors is better when you're first starting out. So it's okay to do like monochrome or one color plus like green. You'll enjoy the results much better if you are a little held back with your color choices in the beginning until you get a feel for the paint and get a little more practice with colors. Okay, now I'm going to have a little bit more blue to this because I want it to be darker. And this is a little bit on the blue side, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more of my purple, my lilac color. There we go. So I've gotten a little bit darker, and I'm going to go in and fill in the other little pieces, and I could even go just a little bit darker. And I probably should have painted the earrings too at the same time so that I didn't have to try to match the colors up again. But that's okay. That's my tip to you, is paint all the components with the color that you have mixed up first, and then go on to your next color and get it on all the components for this with the second color. And that will help a little bit, so you don't have to try to match up colors and remember what you mixed. Of course, if you aren't a Miss Fancy Pants like me, you can just use the colors straight out of the package, and then you wouldn't have to remember what you used. Oh yes, and you guys, today's post isn't sponsored. I'm just sharing this because I really loved these components, and I thought you guys would enjoy learning some of the tips and tricks of it. So if you're interested in buying these, you can just go to vintaj.com. I do have some that I'll have available on Friday, but I just have a small collection of my favorite ones, and then a few of the paints, but they'll be sold as sets of the ones that you're seeing today, which I really like these colors. Okay, moving along a little bit faster here, because nothing more fun than watching paint dry, right? Oh, and these brushes that I bought, they're the size 0. So make note of that. They have different sizes of these silicone brushes, and you really want the size 0. They come with a few different tips for the ends, so you'll want to make sure you get the size 0 ones. And I think there were like 5 of the brushes in one. Okay, I am going to... Now, I don't want to try to add white to this little pile to make it lighter, because I'll waste a bunch of paint. So I'm going to take the white and add the purple to it. And that will help save you on the paint, because it would take much more white to make this lighter than it does to make the light a little bit dark with the purple. I actually think I need one more drop of this little lilac one, because there was more lilac in the first color. And if you're not sure about color combinations, Vintaj sells these paints in little sets that are like pre-made color palettes. And they also have samples on the website of how they've painted and how they've used the components in jewelry. So they make it really easy on you. And again, I'm not like doing paint strokes. I'm just dabbing the paint on here. Then it kind of soaks into the wood as it dries. And if you make a mistake, don't worry, you can just go back over it with the other paint, or just live with it. So you don't have to have real fine painting skills, you just have to be able to dab the paint on. And you can paint both the front and back of these. Now, cleanup, super simple. You don't need water or anything. You just need some baby wipes. And because these are silicone brushes, they just wipe right off. So cleanup's super simple. So you're just going to wipe it off, and then you have your clean brush ready to go. Now I'm going to do the outside part of this green. And you'll see you just need a little tiny dot to get started. And actually I think I'm going to do the outside part white. So I'm going to do the inside parts green. One of the great things about creating your own pieces is you can change your mind whenever you want. And if something doesn't work out, you can just paint over these. Okay, now I think I'm going to do white around the outside part. Or maybe I'll do a really light green. So to get a light green, I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow that I have. Maybe. There we go. And a little bit of the green. So this will be a little bit lighter of the yellow that's in the center here. And you want to mix up enough for the two sides, because you're going to be doing both of these pieces. Since they're earrings, you want them to match. Painting a little bit away from myself, so it's a little trickier not to have it right in my face, which is how I generally like to create things. And move these around so that you can get the best position to paint into these little tiny pieces, so it doesn't have to stay in one spot. Okay, now that I've gotten to this end, what I want to do, I could use this little silicone brush and dab all over the whole thing, and it will give me a nice thick coat all the way around, but I think I'm going to take my paintbrush and just paint a little bit of a lighter color on the top here. So if you're doing bigger spaces, or you want to have more of a wash effect, use your paintbrush. So I'm actually going to do that on this side too. And this you will have to wash off with water right away so that it doesn't harden on your paintbrush. And I'm going to go in and just fill in these little spots here. Now you probably probably should have mixed up a little bit more, just so that I didn't run out at the end. So because it uses such little amounts of paint, you can be a little bit generous mixing it up. You're not wasting that much if you have a little extra, since it takes so little to actually color these. You do want to puddle it in nice, a nice even coat on here, because if you keep coming in and dabbing it like I am doing right now, it may dry with a little bubble in it. So it does help to have enough paint on your paintbrush so that you're not doing that, so that you're really puddling it into the little inside parts there. Diana, can you see me painting here? Can you guys see? Let me know. Can you see me painting? It's a really, really light color. It's a yellowish green. Can you guys see that? Please let me know, yes or no. That would be really sad if you couldn't see everything that I was doing here. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Okay. So I was painting off the screen. That's fantastic. All right. Now I'm going to use the same basic colors, but I'm going to mix up more of a blue this time. Again, if I want that lighter, that blue to be lighter, I'm going to take the white and add the dark into the white, not the other way around. And if you wanted, you could keep little notes and make a little color chart for yourself if that was important to you. Oh, good, Gerald. Thanks for letting me know I wasn't off screen. Phew. That's like my worst fear, to be doing this completely and then you guys don't even see. Well, not my worst fear. I'm sure I have worse fears for a video, but so again, make sure you have enough color to load up the little silicone brush nice and full, and go ahead and get that color wherever you want your background to be. And then you're just going to clean it off with your brush, your baby wipe. And now I think I'm going to do white flowers this time. Something a little different. And I'm going to leave the centers the natural wood color. I think that I really like a little bit of the natural wood showing through on some of these pieces where you can. Adds a nice little effect to it. So don't feel like you have to cover up the entire piece every time. Letting some of that wood show through can be really pretty. Also feel like it adds a little bit more of a modern feel to it if a little bit of the wood shows through. Kind of that Scandinavian design aesthetic. I've left a few of these blank because I'm going to come back in and add a little bit of a lighter blue for some contrast on some of these petals. Maybe I'll just do them all white. Oh. Add a tiny bit of blue in that. Oh no, I can hear my daughter's taking a nap and I can hear her snoring. We won't tell her we heard her snoring on the video. How's that, guys? Okay, so I am going to leave those plain. And now that I've done this with the white, I kind of want these to be light in the center. So I'm going to come up and color over the green centers and make them white. So Pat, you'll be able to rewatch the whole video, but this is the Ultimate Paints, the Colorful Soul collection from Vintaj is what I'm using. And so vintaj.com is where you can find the paints. And it's really forgiving. You can see just totally erases, and I like the way that pops a little bit more. And so these are definitely looking way more springy, and I kind of like it. Maybe summery. It's okay. It doesn't need a definition. I just like the way it looks. Okay, and now I'm going to paint this one, which is a blank piece, a solid color. What you can do, and I'm not going to do it today, but you can, after you paint these solid pieces, is use StazOn ink and a rubber stamp, and you could stamp on top of your painted pieces that are blank if you wanted another design on here. So I'm going to add a little bit of white over here and make a light blue and do a whole piece here in the light blue, mixing up with my my silicone brush, but because I'm painting a whole big piece and I want to have this kind of brush stroke feel, I'm going to just paint with a paintbrush. And I may let this dry for a minute and then do a second coat on them. There's a little hair flying around. And there is definitely a front and a back to these pieces. The back pieces will have more variations in the burnt mark. So this is the back. And I'm going to do another coat on the front in just a minute. So the wood pieces, these are from Vintaj, which is VINTIJ.com. And then I will have the pieces that I'm showing you here today on my website on Friday. Wish I could say I had everything together, but this week is not a together kind of week, so they'll be ready on Friday. Now, if you wanted a really solid color on here, like the background on this blue piece, then you would just use the silicone brush. You can get them in a size 2 if you wanted to have a larger one for larger pieces. But this one I actually want to do a sanded finish on it. So having these brush strokes, I want that kind of feel. I know, you gotta love the Vintaj. In Vintaj and Humblebeads, we're like peas and carrots. We just are made for each other. Okay. Oops, I just stuck my finger in that. So I would need to let these dry for a little bit. And so I'm going to let that dry. But what I wanted to show you is my favorite finishing technique for these. Once they're dry, and you can kind of see it on here, the paint has a little bit of a sheen to it. So if you want to make it a flat color, a matte color, you're just going to take Renaissance wax and just dab on a little coat of Renaissance wax, and that will dull down the shine that's on here. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do, and I did it on here, and I'll do it on another piece just to show you the example. This piece, you can see I have the flat colors on here, but what I did after I painted it all is I just took my sandpaper and just really gently went over the pieces, hitting a little bit more on the edge, and this is a great way to get a mix of finishes. So you have a little bit of the shine from the paint, and then you also have the sanded piece that dulls the shine back down. And on each piece I did go through and do the Renaissance wax. Just dab on a little bit. It doesn't take much. You don't want to have like a big goopy coat on here. Okay, just waiting for paint to dry. So let me pull out these ones. These are ones where I did the distressed finish on them. So after I painted them, they're more like a stain. That's how I like to think of them, as like a stain. So I've done it in a dark color here, and then I just took the sandpaper and sanded it to get that distressed look. And just sand it evenly all the way around. If you accidentally sand too much off, just pull out your paints and paint them again. Yeah, and Pauline, hopefully maybe someone can leave a link to the Vintaj website. That would look really, I mean, that would be really nice if you guys could leave that for people. And here's another one where I did the painting all the way around, and then I sanded just the background. Oops. Drop that in the paint. If you are quick before it dries, you can just wipe it off with a baby wipe like I just did. But I just took the sandpaper and just sanded all the way around on the edges and left this as is, and then used the Renaissance wax. So I have that mix of finishes. And you can paint the backs too, so that if something flips around, it's not just the plain wood. And I could actually have done a second coat on that if I wanted. Okay. So this is dry now, so I will do the sanding here for you guys. So I'm just going to really lightly sand along the edge here, and then over the painting. Now this is if you want this to be raised and bright, don't do this part over the flowers. But I just want to knock the color back just a little bit. And kind of going over the edges a little bit more so that you can actually see the distressed finish on here. Very subtle, since I have such a light color. It's almost like a natural wood. How to paint something and look like you didn't paint. Thank you, Gerald, for sharing the link, you guys. Okay, so let's get this guy distressed too. So I'm going to take this and just sand evenly over the whole piece. And then go along the edges, so that the edges have less of the paint on them. Now the Vintaj, they sell a dark brown, and I didn't pull it out, but I have the dark brown too. Maybe I'll pull it out real quick if you guys don't mind waiting a second, because you can stain these, well, you can paint them to look like stained stained pieces of wood. So this one's clay. I don't think that's the dark brown though. Oh, and they also have these in metallic finishes too. So here's a brown that you could use to stain. I would actually use this with a little tiny bit of black. So if you want to lighten a color, real easy way is to add white. If you want to brighten a color, look on your color wheel and add the lightest color next to it on the color wheel. So say I wanted this blue to be brighter, I would add green to make it a little bit brighter. If I didn't want it to be lighter and brighter. Okay. And it's okay if the paint dries on your silicone brush, you just wipe it off when you're done. It just wipes right up. Oop, too much black. So I'm taking my lighter color and adding the black to the lighter color. You definitely don't want to do it the other way around. I know they have a dark brown too. I just don't have it with me. So you can paint over the edge to get that dark look back again if you sanded too much of it off or painted over it. Or when you sanded the little nubs off the end, if it scraped away too much of the dark, you can redarken it with a little bit of dark brown paint. Now if any of this gets on the front, I can just sand it off on the corners. Okay, so there, that's nice and dark around the edges again. And this, again, you could stamp on this. This is a really great little blank canvas to put a little metal, let me see what I got here. Of course, nothing that I need, right? Always the way it goes. A little charm. Of course, I don't have a little charm anywhere close by. I'm sure you guys could envision a little charm hanging on here. Oop. And I see I didn't quite get the bottom off a little piece, so I just sanded that a little bit more. And I had a little bit of paint on the edge there. No biggie. Just use the sandpaper to sand it off. And I don't know if I sealed this, but I'm going to again, just in case, because I really like the matte finish. If you're a shiny kind of person and you like the shine, then you don't have to use the Renaissance wax. There's no need to seal this paint. It's permanent. Just like their patina paints will, so it won't rub off or come off after it's dried completely. So you don't need to seal it, heat treat it, you don't need to do anything like that. Once it dries, it'll be a nice hard finish. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions about this. I am trying to shake up a paint here. Not easy. Okay, there we go. You got to get that little ball loose that's in there. Yeah, let me know if you guys have questions about this. Any questions at all, I will be glad to answer. And they do have metallics also. And so you can see it's separated here, so I need to keep shaking. But they do have metallic paints too, just like their old patina Vintaj line. And what they did is they took all of their top-selling best colors and made them into these paints. So all of your favorites from the old Vintaj line are available in these colors. I mean, in these paints. Of course, Vintaj is always really great at taking care of their customers and giving us what we want and like. So, okay, so this is like, I think this is a white gold. And I'm really liking that. What I'm going to do, I kind of took too much off my center here, so I think I'll put a little. Ooh, nope, that didn't work. It was way too light. Maybe I'll add a little sparkle on here. Just a little something different, since that color didn't really show up on the wood. And these kind of components you could use as earrings, but you could also make them into pendants. They would be really pretty for pendants too. So just a little something different there with the metallics. You're just sitting there looking at your muffin tin, Gerald. Gotta pull those pieces out and get creating with them. If you guys didn't watch last week's video on the muffin tin challenge, make sure you go back and watch that. I had sanded too much of the little centers off, so I'm going to just repaint them because I do want those centers to pop just a little bit. Okay guys, that's it. I've showed you my 3 favorite techniques, which is the staining technique, the one where you pull up the paint with the rubber brush on here and then sand it really gently, and then brushing with the brush and doing the pooling mixed on the pieces. So that's what we have for today. Hopefully you guys found this informative. I think I'll find a little basic color theory link and link that for you guys so that you know what colors are across each other from the color wheel, because that will help you make better decisions so that you can know if 2 colors that you're going to mix together, if they're just going to make mud. So it doesn't hurt to go with the combinations that Vintaj puts together too. Like I could have just painted these with some added whites, and they really have put together really beautiful combinations. This one had a gray and I forget which other color. But anyways, look on the website and you'll see they have really beautiful little sets. They're like sets of 5s. And the color combinations that they put together work really well for mixing and also just to use separately. Not sure if I like that background green. I'm probably going to change it because that's me. And again, that's a really nice thing about these paints, is that you're not stuck if you don't like the way something looks. I'm just going to sand it off a little bit because it didn't work for me. And that's okay. They're very forgiving, which don't we all love a forgiving craft project? We don't need your judgment paints. Okay, I think I will go back and do just a little bit more of a green. Ooh, I seem to have... Here's my yellow. Just something that stands out just a little bit more on that one. Okay, I'm going to paint this really quickly. And again, make sure you're just puddling it. You don't want to try to do like little brush strokes. You're just puddling the paint around the dark lines. And that will give you the best results, because you don't want those little tiny divots that happen. And then I'm going to paint with the brush around the top. Yeah, so my top tips though, just to review, are use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. to make harmonious color collections, or use the Vintaj palettes that they already have picked out for you. Always add the darker color to the light, and that will help you not waste paint. If you want to lighten something and you don't mind the pastel look, you can use white. If you want to darken something and gray it down at the same time, you can use just a little tiny splash of black. Okay, where did I put my paintbrush now? Oh. Everything's walking away. Okay. All right. Yeah, I like that better. Yep, there we go. I like that better, guys. What do you think? Oh, hi, Pauline from New Zealand. I'm glad you could watch today. I'm afraid we still aren't able to ship over to you, so you'll just have to take all this inspiration until we can get things heading over in that direction again. Okay, so again, I just wanted to show you guys the white is a really beautiful effect on the wood. It gives it like a whitewashed look. And you can see I do have a little bit of the paint on the inside. You know, don't drive yourself crazy trying to be too perfect with these. They look cute, and it's fine if there's a few little mistakes on them. Don't worry about that. Okay, now before I get going, I wanted to share a few things with you guys. So I have this Festive Forest workshop that you can purchase on my website, and it's a jewelry class making wire frames and beading them, and I have the Christmas tree, and then I have a fall leaf pattern, and then the little Christmas tree type earrings, and the class is only $25. But what I'm doing is next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to do a live create-along version with the class, where you'll have to look at the class materials first, and then get your materials all together, and then we'll just make the designs together during the workshop. It won't be a hands-on workshop. You need to do the print the class materials and watch them before the workshop, because it's not going to be a tutorial. For when we do our little create along, you'll just be practicing your skills that you will have already learned, because you'll have already watched the videos and read the downloads. And then it's just a nice little way to do a little creative session where it gives you guys a set time and place to create, because I don't know about you, but once you sign up for a class, especially a self-paced class like this one, it's really hard during the holidays to like say, okay, I'm gonna make time today to do it. So this is just a freebie bonus for this class that will be next Thursday at 7 p.m. Once you sign up for the class, we'll automatically send you the information for the create along that we're going to do next Thursday, and that will be just a free little bonus. I'll be there. We'll have Christmas music playing in the background. Bring a hot cocoa or tea, and you can just make jewelry with us as we do that. It'll only be for the class participants, and we'll just be making the little items that you see here. So you'll want to work on those. It's also a great way if you have any troubleshooting or you do have questions about the class materials. It's a great way to just jump in and have a little extra hands-on help with me. Also, if you've signed up for this class and made these in the past, you'll be getting the invitation for the work create along, and you can join us again and make a few new ones of these. These make great Christmas gifts, but they also make really cool Christmas ornaments. I know we have quite a few of these in our house hanging around. And then on Friday, there we go. On Friday, well, here, let's do that picture. On Friday, I'm going to have new beads for you guys, and I have a few more holiday things to share with you guys. And I'll have some jewelry listed on Friday, too, if you guys want to do some last-minute shopping with me. And that'll be Friday at 3 p.m. We'll be doing the coffee break, and I'll have new beads and these little guys up on the website on Friday. I have a lot of things here in the studio that I need to get over on the website to you guys, because I have like trays and trays of beads just sitting here waiting to get shared. So I'm gonna work on that next week for you guys, along with some for this week and then some for next week. So you'll get a little sneak peek on Friday of all the new stuff that I'll have in the shop. Again, humblebeads.com is where you can find my beads, and I have check glass metal and my humble beads, like my discs and my birds. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the painting. If you did, feel free to share this class, and if you have any questions, leave comments and I will be glad to answer your comments also. All right, guys, you have a really great week. I will see you next on Friday, and then again next Wednesday for Bead Table Wednesday. And I'm crossing my fingers that Bead Table Wednesday next week will be the Vintaj subscription box, that will be here, and we'll get to open that and play along together. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you on Friday. Bye.